Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Three teen sisters have been arrested for allegedly trying to kill their mother after she turned off the Wi-Fi.
Three teen girls, all sisters, are accused of hatching a plan to kill their mother for not turning on the Wi-Fi. The Harris County Sheriff's Office says the girls ages 14, 15, and 16 chased their mother out of their home with knives. KPRC2 reporter Corley Peel is live from the Barkers Crossing neighborhood in West Harris County. Corley, what are you learning from neighbors?
Zach, this neighborhood is filled with families, and we talked to several neighbors who said they heard yelling coming from that home where the teens live earlier in the day. Now, deputies responded to that home last night, and one neighbor even told me that a girl ran from that house asking her for help and to call 911. Investigators say the three teen sisters were upset their mother turned off the Wi-Fi, so they grabbed kitchen knives and chased their mom throughout the house and into the street, attempting to stab her. The mother was struck with a brick in the process. Deputies say the grandmother was knocked over while trying to protect the mom. Fortunately, they are both okay. A neighbor who asked to remain anonymous says she sees deputies and hears yelling coming from that home on a regular basis. Have you ever worried for your safety living across the street and hearing a lot of the commotion?
Yes, that's for sure. Yes, I don't even let my kids come outside because of them.
All three teens were arrested. The sisters, they were all arrested and charged with aggravated assault. They are currently being held in the Harris County Juvenile Detention Center. Now, the Harris County Sheriff's Office, they tell me that this is the third time this year that deputies have been called to that home. We'll tell you what those calls were for coming up at 5. Reporting live from West Harris County, Corley Peel, KPRC 2 News.
Corley, thank you.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place in a home in Harris County of Houston, Texas, three teenage girls aged 14, 15, and 16 were upset because their mother turned off the Wi-Fi, disconnecting the home from the internet. And because they were upset about their mother disconnecting the home from the internet, possibly as related due to a punishment, this is where the girls conspired to take the life of their own mother by taking knives out of the kitchen in an effort to attack her. And as these girls were looking to attack their mother, their 70-year-old grandmother was trying to protect the mother and was knocked down as the girls attempted to allegedly assault her. And as the mother was being assaulted, the girls chased her around the home, chased her out of the house, and as she was chased out of the house, the girls then looked to attack their mother, knocking her down and hitting her with a brick. And as they were attacking the mother, this is where police were called by neighbors. And as neighbors were called the police came to the scene and then wound up arresting the three teenage girls and then taking them into custody, where they were charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and booked in the Harris County Juvenile Detention Center, where they currently remain right now. Now, the police in Harris County see the alleged behavior of these three teenage girls as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged behavior of these three teenage girls, it definitely fits the pattern and profile of antisocial behavior of children of the corn that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis, and also fits the pattern and profile of antisocial online behavior that I talk about in my book, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Now, when it comes down to the behavior of these three teenage girls, it basically is what happens as related to our society, reaping what it sowed, later than what it sowed, greater than what it sowed, as related to looking to have technology raise our kids. And this was a plan that was put in place back in the 1950s by wealthy people like the Rockefellers, who did not want to see children raised by their parents and wanted to go out here and remove the father from the home and take away God's head and steward from his place in the home, and then have the woman go out here and work. And then as the woman was working, the children would be in front of television at the time, and the TV would program the kids with the values and ideas that the wealthy wanted them to have. Unfortunately, over the last 30 years, as we've evolved from television to the internet, people have gone from watching television, which was regulated by the government, to an unregulated internet. And as we've gone to this unregulated internet, sadly, as many parents have put their children in front of these technological pacifiers, what has happened is those children have become addicted to the internet, and addicted to the internet because they did not have that time in their early years where they bonded with their mothers and fathers. No, usually when children are anywhere from 0 to all the way up to about 15, 16 years old, they form bonds with their parents, and as they form those bonds with their parents, they are taught values that teach them how to survive in the world, such as learning how to respect the authority of their parents and respect the chain of command as related to God's natural order. And because the wealthy didn't want to see people, again, following God and following God's order, they put kids in front of television first, and then their parents put their kids in front of these computers, and that's caused a complete collapse as related to children learning how to respect adult authority in human beings. And instead, what has happened, instead of kids learning how to, again, respect authority because they've bonded with people and connected with people, they have become connected to, first, computers, and now connected to these handheld devices like smartphones, tablets, and other technology. And as they've bonded with this technology, what has happened is these children have gone on a road where they, again, look to have a connection with the internet. And as they look to have this connection with the internet, they've basically gone from, again, looking to be a part of God's order to looking to be a part of the idolatry of mammon. And as they've looked to be a part of the idolatry of mammon, they basically see the internet as something that they believe is, again, more important than God, more important than the authority of God's order, in looking to honor your mother and your father by respecting their authority. No, they see that internet as basically being the thing that they're serving and the thing that they're basically connected to, and they're more connected to the computer because sadly many parents put their kids in front of these computers, and as they put their kids in front of these computers, they again have more of a relationship with the internet than they do with real people, and have more of a connection with the internet than real people, because the internet basically is their world, because their world is basically created around platforms like social media. And sadly, as they have become more socialized and connected to social media, they are becoming more and more antisocial in the real world, and becoming more and more antisocial in the real world, to the point where they don't learn how to respect authority figures because they were not ever raised to be bonded to those adult figures, because the parents were so busy working, and as they were working, they were basically working to pay for things like the internet without giving them any sort of life skills, setting any sort of boundaries for internet use, and without anybody, again, being a real authority figure, and again, setting order and boundaries for these kids. Sadly, these children have grown up like stalks, and this is why I call them the Children of the Corn, inspired by the Stephen King horror novel and the horror movie Children of the Corn, because like those children of the corn, these kids have grown up like stalks without any sort of structure or scaffolding, and without any sort of structure or scaffolding established by God's order. What these kids happens to them is, as they're on this internet, they're basically, again, growing up wild, believing everything as related to that computer is more important than real life. And because they're growing up believing that everything as related to that computer is more important than real life, whenever they are confronted by real people in the real world, they basically, again, wind up losing it. And what happened with these three girls is that they wound up, again, exploding in a rage because they basically had their whole online life cut off as related to the life that they were tethered to. I mean, they basically almost had like a soul tie to that internet. And once that connection was cut, that's when these girls just basically lost it and wanted to hurt their mother because they basically had more of a connection to that computer than they had to the real people in their lives. And that's what led to them looking to, again, participate in this act of a malice of forethought to look to take the life of their mother, because their life was more connected to social media and, again, getting that hit of dopamine from, again, clicking and seeing that screen change. That was the thing that basically had these girls, again, looking to, again, act out like this with malice of forethought, I believe, as related to taking the life of their mother because she turned off the Wi-Fi. Now, the mother thought she could do this as related to discipline to these adolescents, not understanding when it came down to these adolescents, social media and these computers and the internet basically was like their actual life. I mean, that virtual world for many of us Gen Xers, because they say that the mother was 39 years old, so she's basically a millennial. Again, she grew up in a world where she still had television, and again, television was, again, heavily regulated, so a lot of the content on there basically was not connected to our lives. We were still connected to the real world. Many of us Gen Xers, many of us millennials, we still would go outside. We would still go outside and experience real life in places like malls, places like events like Comic-Cons and concerts and movie theaters. We still lived in the real world. Unfortunately, when it comes down to this later generation, Generation Alpha, Gen Z, they basically were connected to these computers from birth, and they were basically sadly put on this road by us Gen Xers because we wound up, again, believing technology was okay because we grew up with TV, but we don't see how TV, like back in the day, was addictive to some of us, because I used to be a heavy TV head when I was a little boy, and as I grew older, I started to distance myself from television and started to move on. I started to move on because I started to live real life. And again, with the internet, again, I understood that, okay, this is not the real world. But sadly, when it comes down to many of these kids growing up, they believe that the internet is the real world. They believe that the internet is real life. They believe that the internet is the real world, but the internet is a virtual space that so many are addicted to, but can't let go. Cannot let go, and when you cut the connection, it's similar to giving a drug addict cold turkey, and it makes that people's behavior extremely erratic to the point where some of them feel like they want to get violent, and that's what sadly happened here with these three teenage girls who many in the neighborhood said were running wild, which is basically what happens to a lot of girls who especially are raised by single mothers or generations of single mothers, because it's looking to me like the grandmother basically was a single mom, the mother was a single mom, and now the granddaughters were possibly on the road to becoming women in crisis, and becoming women in crisis because they did not have that authority established by a man in God's order to be over that home, the authority of a man who was a steward of God to establish a set of rules to make God first, the authority of a man to set order over those girls, establishing limitations and boundaries for those girls as related to how they will behave, and establishing limitations and boundaries as related to the time they could be on this internet. This is what a father would have established as related to that home, and if he turned off the Wi-Fi, they wouldn't have acted out because they understood, okay, Dad is the ultimate authority. I need to respect his authority. But when it came to the mother, they felt that this mother was not a actual authority figure because she had been working all the time and gave them digital pacifiers. And as she gave them these digital pacifiers, they didn't see their mother as an authority figure. No, like in many homes that have been under the 60 years of feminism, what has happened is the mothers are not seen by the children as an authority figure, but they see them as just another person due to the dysfunctional way children have been raised, due to the new standards and the new order the wealthy wanted to establish, because they wanted to create generations of consumers. But the great irony is that as they've raised these children of the corn, you're not getting consumers, you're getting antisocial individuals. And these antisocial individuals have been, again, wreaking havoc because they don't know how to function as children, because they were not taught actual life skills or survival skills. They were not taught in life skills like discipline or having resolve. Now, most kids, because they understand punishments from mom, and they understand, okay, I'm not going to have this internet and not have this internet, so I'm going to be able to, again, understand I need to behave in a certain way in order to have these privileges. Unfortunately, when it comes down to many parents, they're not able to parent because many of these wealthy want people to work all sorts of insane hours. They want people to work 50, 60 hours like a maniac. And sadly, since they're so busy working at these companies, what's happening to the kids is that nobody's raising them, and they're basically, again, forming a bond with this internet. And again, this is where the kids start heading down rabbit holes of conspiracy theories, and this is what's leading to a lot of kids being so misinformed that they're motivated to participate in mass shootings, like the case of Luigi Mangione and the young man who shot a Walgreens worker. Again, the children are basically growing up like wild stalks because there's no man there to establish structure as related to fathers being in the home. There's no mother there to be there for these kids. And these crazy work hours basically make it where these children form more of a bond with the internet than they do with their parents. And as they form more of a bond with the internet than their parents, this is where they don't see their parents as people whose lives they need to regard. And this is what's leading to all of the chaos that we're currently seeing as related to this entire pattern of behavior. Because I just recently did a video talking about a young man in New York who took the life of his grandmother and basically attacked his own mother because she wanted to curtail his computer use. And what's really scary here about this whole obsession with these computers is that these young people, again, are becoming disconnected from people to the point where they have no regard for the lives of the people in their lives. And that basically is proving a point as related to the Word of God, as related to it fulfilling where God said the love of many would wax cold. And it's really cold when a child has no regard for the life of the person who brought them into this world. That's what's really scary here about this whole situation. It's really scary that these three girls, again, who basically are supposed to be the first teachers of culture, are learning a culture of having no regard for human life because they are so more connected to the internet and connected to the idolatry of that technology than they are to the Word of God. That's what's really scary here about this whole situation. These three girls basically were so connected to the internet that they basically had learned no regard for human life. Again, learning no regard for human life, no different than what many black men say about black women, who they call the BT 1000s. Again, this is even worse because, again, you have again, these girls being programmed like Cyberdyne systems to become almost like Terminators, because they value technology over people, and value technology over people to the point where they basically would again look to violate the 6th commandment that God made, saying, "Thou shalt not murder." I mean, you have 3 girls sitting here planning the murder of their own mother, again fulfilling the word of God as related to people, again with this internet. And it's quite scary that so many people are more bonded to this internet than they are as related to the Bible. It's really scary to me that, again, this is conservative Houston, Texas, or conservative Texas, where you're having this happen, and many people not aware of what's happening with these children of the corn, what's happening here with these children of the corn, who basically are girls growing up to become women in crisis, because they have learned no regard for human life, because they value being on these tablets and cell phones and laptops more than they do spending time with their mother and grandmother. And that really shows how twisted the values of children have become since the days that when the Rockefellers came up and proposed this plan to break up the family, and shows how America is reaping what it sowed, greater than what it sowed, later than what it sowed, over 60 to 70 years ago. 60 to 70 years ago, these wealthy people wanted to walk away from God so that they could go out here and make money. And as they look to go out here and make money, that people no longer have a value for human life. They no longer have a value for human life. And that's what makes this whole situation show us how this is an escalation of the ongoing man and woman crisis in this country, an ongoing escalation as related to things, because these girls have gone from the dysfunctional authority of their parents, who could not, these females who could not control them. Now, originally the feminists once said, oh, these girls could be raised without a dad, without a man. And we see what happens with these girls, again, raised without a man. They're on the road to becoming women in crisis. Free girls who used to be free and had their freedom now are part of the juvenile justice system, where they're going to go through a major withdrawal, because one of the reasons, again, why these girls were acting out is because they were going through a withdrawal because they didn't have this internet. And because they didn't have this internet, they went through this withdrawal and again went and became extremely violent. And this is what happens, again, because people don't know how things are. And what's even more going to be more jarring, because you don't have the internet inside of these juvenile facilities, is these girls are going to become even more erratic as they're under the authority of the COs there. And again, we'll go from being under the authority of mom to dealing with the being able to be on social media, to dealing with the social pecking order of Betty, Martha, and Big Lou, and will be stuck in a cell or a room playing spades. Again, this is the life that's going to happen to these three teenage girls who basically had no discipline to deal with a mother turning off Wi-Fi, and now are on the road to becoming women in crisis in the juvenile justice system. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the antisocial behavior of people behaving online, you can pick up my book, Stop Simping in Cyberspace, on Amazon.com. And you can also pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, as well, to learn about the behavior of children of the corn and what leads to them becoming children of the corn. Again, both of these books are on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. They're also available at other online booksellers like Draft Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos talking about the children of the corn and what leads to them being on the road to becoming children in crisis, you can donate to the Patreon, PayPal, or Cash App to help me stay on the air and continue making videos that will help you out. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.